We're looking at a story that is shaking capitals from Washington to Taipei. A massive intelligence leak, verified by multiple Western defense sources, has exposed what appears to be a coordinated, long-term war plan between Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. According to the leaked documents, Beijing and Moscow have been quietly aligning military strategy, cyber capabilities, and economic pressure tactics with one shared objective: reshaping Asia's balance of power, starting with Taiwan. The revelation of a massive intelligence leak exposing a coordinated war strategy between Russia and China has sent shockwaves through global political circles, and for good reason. The scale, depth, ambition of this leaked plan go far beyond anything previously suspected. What makes this disclosure so alarming is not merely the existence of cooperation between Moscow and Beijing, but the strategic precision and long-term preparation behind it. This is not an improvised alliance, nor a symbolic gesture of partnership. This is a carefully crafted blueprint designed to reshape the strategic landscape of Asia, beginning with Taiwan, a geopolitical flashpoint where the stakes are immense and the margin for miscalculation is dangerously thin. The hook of this revelation lies in its timing and scope. At a moment when the world is already stretched thin by conflicts and economic instability, the leak exposes a partnership rooted in shared ambition and mutual strategic need. According to the documents, Russia and China have been quietly aligning their military doctrines, cyber operations, and naval capabilities for years, building a framework that positions them as a unified front against Western influence. It's a plan that combines China's regional power with Russia's battlefield-tested experience, creating a hybrid threat unlike anything the U.S. or its allies have faced in decades. What makes this especially compelling is the strategic intent evident throughout the leaked material. The documents don't just outline theoretical cooperation. They detail specific targets, projected timelines, risk assessments, and operational phases. They reveal joint simulations conducted under high secrecy, focusing on neutralizing Taiwan's defensive posture within the first hours of conflict. The plan maps out coordinated cyber assaults, rapid strike maneuvers, and naval blockades designed to prevent the U.S. from intervening early. These are not symbolic exercises. These are concrete steps toward a possible real-world conflict. The leak also highlights how closely Putin and Xi are studying U.S. behavior. The intelligence includes assessments of American political divisions, military readiness, and even predicted delays in decision-making if a Taiwan crisis unfolds. The goal is clear: exploit hesitation, overwhelm early defenses, present the world with a sudden new reality before Washington can mount a meaningful response. This calculated approach reflects two leaders who believe the West is distracted, overextended, and vulnerable to strategic surprise. Another striking element within the leak is the depth of trust implied between the two authoritarian powers. Historically, Russia and China have been wary of one another, shaped by ideological differences and border disputes. But today, their shared opposition to Western dominance appears to have forged an unprecedented alignment. The documents detail joint command structures, intelligence exchanges, and synchronized deployment strategies, steps that require a level of transparency and cooperation neither country has offered to any partner in decades. The leak suggests this partnership is not temporary. It is planned, structured, and mutually reinforced by long-term geopolitical goals. The revelation becomes even more gripping when considering how far-reaching the consequences could be. A coordinated Chinese-Russian move on Taiwan wouldn't just destabilize Asia, it would trigger economic, military, and political shockwaves across the entire world. The global semiconductor supply chain, international trade routes, and security alliances would all face immediate disruption. It would be a test not only of U.S. strength, but of the resilience of the entire democratic world. This intelligence leak is not simply a glimpse behind the curtain. It is a warning. A warning that the next major global conflict may not begin with a single nation's decision, but with a coordinated strategic partnership built quietly in the shadows. And now, with these plans exposed, the question facing the world is no longer whether China and Russia are preparing for a major geopolitical shift. The question is how soon they intend to act and how prepared the world truly is when they do. The second key point of the leaked intelligence paints a picture that is far more unsettling than mere diplomatic alignment. It reveals a pipeline of battlefield knowledge flowing directly from Moscow to Beijing, with Vladimir Putin personally overseeing the transfer of Russia's most valuable wartime lessons to China's military command. This isn't vague cooperation or symbolic military friendship. It's targeted mentorship drawn from real modern high-intensity warfare, and it's being tailored specifically to support China's ambitions around Taiwan. The hook here is simple and chilling. China is preparing for a war it has never fought, and Russia is supplying the playbook it has refined through years of brutal conflict. The leaked documents describe Putin as more than a political ally. He appears as a strategic advisor offering insights that China has never had access to. Russia's war in Ukraine has forced its commanders to adapt, innovate, and survive in an environment dominated by drones, satellite surveillance, electronic warfare, and rapid-fire intelligence cycles. This brutal battlefield has become a laboratory of modern conflict, and Putin is now exporting that hard-earned knowledge to Beijing. The intelligence leak suggests that Chinese military officials have been quietly studying Russia's tactics, not through publicly available information, but through direct briefings, secure communications, and classified exchanges. This includes detailed breakdowns of what worked, what failed, and how China can avoid the catastrophic missteps Russia made in the early stages of the Ukraine invasion. One of the most gripping revelations is the transfer of drone warfare strategies. Russia has learned, often painfully, how drones can change the shape of a battlefield in minutes. From reconnaissance to kamikaze strikes to swarm attacks that overwhelm air defenses, these tactics have become central to modern war. The leak indicates China is adopting these strategies wholesale, integrating them into its Taiwan invasion models. Russian advisors have reportedly walked Chinese commanders through real combat footage, casualty breakdowns, and logistical demands, giving China a level of wartime insight that no simulation could ever replicate. Another critical area of knowledge transfer is electronic warfare. Russia's experience jamming GPS signals, disrupting communication networks, and blinding enemy sensors has become invaluable. The leak outlines how Russian specialists shared classified methods used to interfere with Western-supplied weapons in Ukraine. These techniques may be adapted to neutralize Taiwan's surveillance capabilities or disrupt U.S. and allied assets in the Pacific. This is a hook that should grab anyone's attention. The same electronic interference that stunned NATO systems in Eastern Europe may soon be aimed at American forces near Taiwan. Logistics, often overlooked but absolutely decisive, is also a major focus. Russia's early logistical failures in Ukraine became global headlines, but behind the humiliation were hard lessons that no military wants to learn firsthand. The leaked intelligence suggests Putin's generals have given China an unfiltered look at these failures, along with solutions Russia developed in response. This includes rapid ammunition resupply systems, mobile drone fabrication units, battlefield energy supply chains, and real-time logistics tracking under combat pressure. China, which has never sustained a modern war, is learning how to prepare for prolonged conflict, not from theory, but from the ashes of Russia's mistakes. Perhaps the most alarming part of this cooperation is the psychological component. Russian commanders reportedly briefed China on the morale challenges, public backlash, and international response they faced. China is using this information to shape propaganda planning, censorship strategies, crisis messaging designed to maintain domestic stability during a Taiwan conflict. In other words, Russia is not just advising China on how to fight a war, it's advising them on how to survive the political firestorm that follows. The leak makes one truth impossible to ignore. China is preparing to fight smarter, faster, and more effectively because Russia has already fought and paid the price. The alliance between Putin and Xi is no longer theoretical. It's practical, tactical, and fueled by blood-learned lessons. And that makes the threat exponentially more dangerous. The third key point of the leaked intelligence reveals a development that is as strategic as it is alarming: covert naval coordination between Russia and China in the South China Sea. This isn't just symbolic patrolling or friendly joint drills meant for public display. According to the leaked documents, these operations were conducted quietly, without media announcements, and were designed with a clear objective: shaping the maritime environment in ways that could decisively impact a future Taiwan conflict. The hook that pulls this entire revelation into sharp focus is simple. While the world watched their public gestures, Russia and China were quietly mapping out the most critical war stage of all: the ocean. The leak shows that the two nations have been conducting synchronized naval activities, focusing on routes, choke points, underwater terrain, and surveillance blind spots around Taiwan. This is not merely defensive maneuvering. The intelligence points to highly detailed planning intended to encircle Taiwan and delay or obstruct U.S. allied naval intervention during the crucial early hours of a conflict. In warfare, the side that controls the sea lanes controls the timeline, and these covert drills appear designed to give Beijing that upper hand. What stands out is the level of sophistication behind this coordination. Russian naval officers with decades of experience tracking native vessels reportedly offered China insights into how the United States deploys, how it disguises movement, and how it positions its carrier strike groups in moments of rising tension. The leaked intel suggests that China used this information to simulate American naval response times and then adjust its own strategy to exploit predictable patterns. For example, Russia allegedly shared confidential data on how U.S. ships responded to Black Sea escalations, helping China predict how American commanders might behave in the Pacific. These covert operations also involved underwater surveillance mapping, an aspect that makes this story even more gripping. Submarine warfare is one of the most secretive arenas in modern conflict. According to the documents, China's submarines, guided by Russian advisors, have been charting underwater channels that would allow them to move stealthily toward Taiwan or position themselves between U.S. carrier groups in the island. Russia's Northern Fleet, known for its stealth operations in Arctic waters, reportedly shared classified sensor avoidance tactics that China has been integrating into its submarine doctrine. The leak goes further, revealing cooperative efforts to identify and exploit quiet zones, underwater regions where sonar detection is significantly reduced. These areas could allow Chinese submarines to hide reposition or ambush incoming U.S. vessels. This type of knowledge is not available through open source research. It is the kind of intel passed only between nations that trust each other enough to share their most guarded military secrets. Another hook buried within the leaked material involves maritime cyber operations. The intel indicates that China and Russia tested methods for disrupting U.S. naval communication networks, including ship-to-ship and satellite-based systems. These tests appear designed to create confusion among U.S. fleets during a crisis, delaying coordinated responses and slowing the deployment of reinforcements. A delayed response, even by a few hours, could dramatically shift the balance of power in the Taiwan Strait. The documents also outline coordinated research on anti-access and area denial systems. Russia reportedly shared classified data on how its coastal defenses tracked and challenged NATO vessels, lessons China adapted to improve its missile targeting precision in the South China Sea. These systems would create a deadly perimeter around Taiwan, making it dangerous, even lethal, for U.S. ships to approach without suffering losses. Perhaps the most striking detail is how these covert naval drills were disguised. The leaked intel claims they were embedded within routine exercises, civilian shipping routes, and weather monitoring missions. This allowed Russia and China to conduct reconnaissance without raising suspicion. The precision of this deception makes it clear that both nations are preparing for a scenario far more serious than routine military cooperation. The partnership revealed in this leak shows a level of shared planning that transforms regional tensions into something far more global. China is preparing for a maritime showdown. Russia is helping it shape the battlefield from beneath the waves. It's a reminder that the next conflict may be decided long before the first shot is fired. Quietly, out of sight, in the deep waters where nations wage a hidden war. The fourth key point in the leaked intelligence is perhaps the most unsettling because it reveals a battlefield that most people will never see, but that will determine the fate of an entire region. Within minutes, the cyber domain. According to the leaked documents, China and Russia have developed a joint cyber attack blueprint designed specifically for what military analysts call the first hour. The critical window in which Taiwan's ability to detect, respond, communicate would either hold strong or collapse entirely. The hook here is stark and urgent. Before a single missile is fired or a naval blockade is declared, the real war may already be won or lost inside invisible networks. The leaked intel outlines a cyber offensive so layered and precise that it resembles a digital ambush engineered to blind Taiwan before it even realizes an attack has begun. China's cyber forces, among the most sophisticated in the world, would launch a massive wave of intrusions targeting Taiwan's early warning radar systems, air, defense networks, satellite uplinks, and military command centers. But what elevates this plan to an entirely different level is Russia's involvement. The documents state that Russia, drawing from years of cyber conflict with NATO, has been advising China on tactics to bypass Western-style defense, exploit outdated systems, and create artificially delayed alerts that could paralyze Taiwan's decision-making for precious minutes. This partnership transforms what might have been a disruptive cyber campaign into a coordinated, high-impact assault. Russian cyber specialists reportedly shared classified insights on how they penetrated Ukrainian networks, jammed battlefield communications, and executed simultaneous misinformation attacks that sowed chaos in the early days of conflict. China, according to the leak, has adapted these strategies to Taiwan's digital infrastructure, identifying its weakest points and drafting timed digital strikes that hit them in synchronized waves. It's not one attack. It's dozens executed with the precision of a modern, silent missile barrage. One of the most gripping details in the leaked documents involves an operation known internally as a communications blackout sequence. This sequence is designed to scramble Taiwan's emergency broadcast channels, disrupt military radio frequencies, and interfere with fiber optic networks connecting command centers. If successful, it would leave Taiwan's leadership temporarily blind, deaf, and isolated, unable to coordinate a defense or even understand the scale of the attack unfolding around them. The hook is chilling. In the first hour of war, Taiwan may not even know it is at war. Another alarming component revealed is the plan to target civilian infrastructure simultaneously. The leak suggests China and Russia mapped out attacks on Taiwan's power grid, transportation control systems, and financial networks. They intend to freeze ATMs, disrupt hospital databases, and overload emergency services with fake data to create public panic. While military targets disrupt defense, civilian chaos fractures morale. This dual-pronged approach isn't improvised. It mirrors Russia's hybrid warfare doctrine, one that China is now preparing to deploy on a much larger scale. The intelligence also highlights preparations for a sophisticated misinformation campaign crafted with Russian expertise. Fake videos, fabricated government announcements, manipulated social media trends would flood Taiwanese networks in the first hour. The objective is clear: amplify confusion, create distrust, break public confidence before Taiwan even has the chance to respond. Russia's past disinformation playbooks appear to have been studied, dissected, and rebuilt for the Taiwan scenario. One of the most gripping revelations in the leak is the inclusion of predictive models that simulate the United States' cyber response. The documents suggest China and Russia analyzed how quickly the U.S. Cyber Command would intervene, how soon satellite systems could be rerouted, and which American communication networks are most vulnerable to counterattacks. This preparation indicates a level of cyber foresight rarely seen even among major powers. But perhaps the most sobering part of this leaked plan is its simplicity: disable Taiwan's ability to see, weaken its ability to communicate, and fracture its ability to trust. If these cyber strikes succeed, Taiwan's air defenses could be delayed, its leadership isolated, its military movements disrupted, all before the first wave of Chinese forces even mobilizes. The leak makes one thing painfully clear: the first battlefield of a Taiwan conflict won't be the skies or the seas. It will be the silent, invisible realm of cyberspace, where Russia's experience and China's ambition merge into an attack designed to win the war before anyone even knows it has begun. The fifth key point uncovered in the leaked intelligence exposes a dimension of the China-Russia partnership that is often underestimated, but may ultimately prove more decisive than military coordination itself. A secret economic shield pact designed to protect both nations from Western retaliation if a conflict over Taiwan erupts. What makes this revelation particularly gripping is not just the existence of such a pact, but the sophistication behind it: an economic survival blueprint engineered to withstand sanctions, resource shortages, and financial warfare. The hook is undeniable. Beijing and Moscow are preparing for a war, not just on the battlefield, but in the global marketplace, and they've built a lifeline designed to keep them standing long after the first missiles fly. The leaked documents reveal the pact as a multi-layered strategy that intertwines energy security, financial maneuvering, resource stockpiling, and sanction-proof trade routes. It begins with Russia's role as China's strategic energy supplier. According to the intelligence, Russia has committed to providing China with guaranteed access to discounted oil, natural gas, and critical minerals, regardless of global market volatility or wartime disruption. The documents suggest that these deals are shielded behind opaque financial channels, making them difficult for Western powers to track, let alone disrupt. For China, which fears that an invasion of Taiwan could trigger immediate sanctions on its energy imports, this arrangement is a critical safeguard. For Russia, meanwhile, it ensures a long-term buyer at a moment Moscow's access to Western markets continues to shrink. What makes this arrangement even more compelling is the reverse side of the deal: China's commitment to serve as Russia's economic buffer. The leaked intel indicates that Beijing agreed to quietly support the Russian economy through a network of secondary financial institutions designed to bypass Western sanctions. These include state-owned banks operating outside the dollar-based system, alternative payment platforms, and digital currency channels that allow Russia to move funds, purchase goods, stabilize its economy without relying on Western infrastructure. Russia, struggling under pressure from existing sanctions, sees China not just as a trade partner, but as its financial artery. The intelligence also highlights a concerted effort to stockpile critical resources in anticipation of economic warfare. China has reportedly been amassing vast reserves of food, fuel, rare earth metals, and semiconductors, while Russia has been expanding its strategic grain and energy reserves. The leak suggests that both nations coordinated the timing of these stockpiling campaigns to avoid triggering suspicion in global markets. This quiet preparation reveals a shared expectation that global trade disruptions will not be temporary. They will be prolonged, severe, and possibly historic. A particularly gripping detail in the leaked documents involves the creation of sanction-proof trade corridors. These corridors include land routes through Central Asia, Arctic maritime paths under Russian control, and discrete supply chains involving sympathetic or neutral countries. These networks are designed to transport food, energy, and military materials even if traditional shipping lanes become compromised during a Taiwan conflict. This infrastructure is not symbolic, it's built to function under real wartime pressure. Another alarming element of the pact is the plan to weaponize economic pressure against the West. According to the leak, China and Russia discussed coordinated restrictions on exports of critical resources such as rare earth minerals, titanium, and palladium, materials essential to Western aerospace, defense, and technology industries. The documents show strategic timing models estimating how long Western nations could continue producing advanced military hardware without access to these supplies. This isn't just defensive planning, it's a blueprint for counter-sanction leverage. The leaked intel also outlines cooperative efforts to undermine the US dollar's global dominance. China and Russia have been expanding bilateral trade in yuan and rubles, pushing alternative currency systems across Asia and Africa, exploring digital currency strategies designed to reduce their exposure to dollar-based sanctions. These measures, though gradual, reflect a deliberate plan to insulate their economies from the financial shockwaves that would follow a Taiwan conflict. Perhaps the most powerful hook in the entire revelation is this: the pact isn't designed only to help China survive a war. It's designed to help Russia recover from one. The document suggests that Moscow sees a Taiwan crisis as an opportunity to reshape global markets in ways that weaken Western influence and tighten Russia's alignment with Asia. Beijing, meanwhile, views Russia's economic resilience as essential to preventing Western powers from isolating China during a prolonged confrontation. What the leaked intelligence ultimately exposes is a partnership built not just for battle, but for endurance. China and Russia are preparing for a confrontation that extends far beyond tanks and warships into the energy markets, the banking systems, the global supply chains, economic foundations that hold nations together. It's a reminder that the next world conflict may be fought with missiles and cyber attacks, but it will be won or lost through the far quieter, far more devastating battleground of global economics. The sixth key point in the leaked intelligence is one of the most revealing and perhaps the most strategically charged, because it shows just how deeply China and Russia have studied, dissected, anticipated the United States' response to a Taiwan conflict. This isn't guesswork or broad military speculation. The leaked documents outline a meticulous, data-driven assessment of how fast the U.S. would deploy forces, which assets it would use first, and where its weak points lie. The hook that makes this revelation so gripping is simple but explosive. While America has spent years monitoring China and Russia have been studying America even more closely. According to the leaked intelligence, joint Chinese-Russian analysts created detailed timelines predicting the sequence of American military actions within the first 48 hours of a Taiwan crisis. These aren't rough estimates, they're high-precision simulations built from decades of U.S. naval patterns, strategic doctrine, and responses to past global conflicts. Russia, drawing from years of high-pressure encounters with NATO in the Black Sea, the Baltic, and the Arctic, provided China with insights into how U.S. fleets reposition during crisis, how American commanders react when pressed, and how quickly U.S. carrier strike groups can transition from peacetime posture to active deployment. One of the most gripping elements of this point is the revelation that China and Russia believe they can exploit American predictability. The leaked document suggests that the U.S. naval and air response, while powerful, is also patterned, disciplined, and bound by procedural caution. The two authoritarian powers intend to use that caution against Washington. They predict that in the earliest minutes of a Taiwan crisis, the U.S. will hesitate, confirm intelligence, conduct internal briefings, and attempt diplomatic escalation. This delay, however brief, becomes a golden window for China's invasion plan. The hook is stark. China believes it can seize the initiative before America fully wakes up. The documents also show that Russia provided China with confidential intelligence about American cyber defense posture. Having spent years probing U.S. government networks, Russian cyber units have mapped out which systems respond first, how incident alerts are prioritized, and which areas of the U.S. cyber infrastructure are slower to detect foreign intrusion attempts. China has integrated these insights into its cyber first strike models, enabling it to craft attacks that delay American military communications and intelligence sharing during the first moments of a Taiwan conflict. Another gripping detail is China and Russia's analysis of U.S. domestic politics. The leaked intel shows they have studied congressional gridlock, public opinion trends, media narratives, and internal political polarization as part of their war calculation. They predict that American leaders may face internal disagreement on how aggressively to respond, especially if China floods global media with narratives framing the conflict as an internal Chinese matter. In other words, They're not just preparing for a military confrontation, they're preparing to exploit political hesitation inside the United States. The leaked documents also outline predictive models showing how quickly U.S. aircraft from bases in Japan, Guam, and Hawaii could be airborne and reaching combat readiness. China and Russia have analyzed fuel logistics, runway vulnerability, satellite imagery patterns, even maintenance schedules at key U.S. bases. The goal appears to be identifying precise moments when U.S. air power is stretched thin. Russia reportedly shared intelligence from its surveillance of American assets in the Middle East and Europe, giving China detailed insights into how the U.S. redeploys aircraft across continents when emergencies erupt. In the naval domain, the intelligence leak shows that China and Russia believe they can temporarily fracture U.S. response coordination. They've studied communication bottlenecks between the Pacific Fleet and Indo-Pacific Command, and they've modeled cyber attacks that could slow the U.S. Navy's ability to synchronize its assets. This delay, possibly as short as 2 or 3 hours, would allow China to establish maritime dominance around Taiwan's coastline before American reinforcements arrive. One of the most startling details is the suggestion that China and Russia have analyzed individual U.S. admirals and generational leadership styles within the Pentagon. They've studied who is bold, who is cautious, who prefers diplomacy, and who has a track record of pushing rapid military responses. By predicting who might lead the response, they believe they can estimate how fast the U.S. will act. The most powerful hook in this entire revelation is that the China-Russia strategy isn't just built around their own strength. It's built around America's vulnerabilities, planning for a war in which speed is everything: speed of cyber disruption, speed of naval encirclement, speed of psychological manipulation, and, critically, speed of exploiting U.S. hesitation. This leaked intelligence makes one thing uncomfortably clear: China and Russia are not simply preparing for how America might respond. They are preparing to get ahead of that response, outpace it, overwhelm it before the United States even realizes the full scale of what is unfolding. This intelligence leak doesn't just reveal a secret war plan, it reveals the mindset of two leaders determined to challenge the free world order. Whether the threat materializes next year or a decade from now, the message is clear: complacency is not an option. The United States, its allies, and every democracy committed to peace must recognize the stakes. Taiwan isn't just an island, it's a front line in a struggle over sovereignty, freedom, and the future of global power.